Budget deficit refers to the excess of that budgetary expenditure over the budget receipt. The root of India's the present-day federal system are founded in Government of India Act in 1991 and 1935. About any financial matter, about any administrative matter and any legislative matters. So whatever it is that center can direct state. Namaste my dear students, Shubha Hebba here, Faculty of Commerce, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. My dear students, a warm welcome to this session on the topic of that is fiscal policy in India, which related to second unit of that pre-reforms Indian economy. Yes, dear students, in the previous session, just we have discussed about fiscal policy in India. Yes, what do you mean by fiscal policy and what are the different objectives of fiscal policy and what are the different instruments of fiscal policy, that is public expenditure, public debt management and public revenues. Yes, in this session we are going to discuss about the further part of fiscal policy, that will be budgetary deficit and what are the relationship between state and central relationship. Yes. Today we are going to discuss about these are all content. Yes, these are all content. Today we are going to discuss one is budget deficit. What is the meaning of budget deficit and what are the different types of budget deficits? And second one, fiscal reforms in India. There are three phases in fiscal reforms and what are the different measures introduced by the government to take reforms in fiscal sector. And next one, what is the relationship between central and state government? There are two important relations. So one is legislative relationship and administrative relationship and another one financial relationship. Yes, the last topic of this session and also as well as the last topic of this chapter, that is about Finance Commission of India. Let us discuss about budget deficit. Yes, what do you mean by budget deficit? Before going to budget deficit, so we have to discuss about what is budget. Budget, which means it is a financial statement of a country, particularly belongs to a certain year. Yes, that budget deficit. What do you mean by budget deficit? Budget deficit refers to the excess of that budgetary expenditure over the budget receipt. When it comes deficit, yes, there are three important factors. So one is deficit and another one is surplus and another one is equal. Okay, when the deficit will occur, deficit which means that revenue is less than expenditure. Okay, revenue is less than the expenditure, then it is considered as deficit. And surplus, so that is revenue is greater than expenditure, it is surplus. And when equal, revenue equal expenditure, it is called equal. That deficit budget, surplus budget and equal budget. So this is that three important types of budget. So that budget deficit in the sense, see here that excess of budgetary expenditure. Excess of budgetary expenditure than over its budget receipts. So what we have receipt, so it is lesser than expenditure. So that positions is called that budget deficit. There are three important types of budget deficits. One is that revenue deficit and another one is fiscal deficit and third one primary deficit. Yes, revenue deficit, it refers to the excess of government revenues expenditure than over its revenue receipts. Okay, so government revenue expenditure is more than that revenue receipts. It is called revenue deficit. So how to write revenue deficit? Revenue deficit equals to revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt. Revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt. So it is denoted by revenue deficit. And the next one, fiscal deficit. What do you mean by fiscal deficit? Yes, it refers to the excess of government total expenditure. Okay, government's total expenditure and over its total revenues. Here they are considering only revenue expenditure and here they are considering total expenditure. Okay, the total expenditure over its total revenue. And yes, that total expenditure minus total revenue and it is excluding borrowings. Okay, so how to write that? Yes, fiscal deficit, it is equals to total expenditure minus total receipt excluding borrowings. Excluding borrowings. Yes, that is total expenditure minus total receipts excluding borrowings. Or you can write that total expenditure minus revenue receipts plus non-debt receipts. Okay, so these are all the important factors should consider under the fiscal deficit. And the next one, that primary deficit. Yes, primary deficit, it refers to that excess of fiscal deficit over the interest payments. Excess of fiscal deficit, which means here we are considering total expenditure and also total receipts. And yes, this is over interest payments. How to write this one? Fiscal deficit. Okay, primary deficits equals to fiscal deficits minus interest payments. Interest payments. Yes, these are all three important types of budget deficits. And next go to that fiscal sector reforms. Till now, we have discussed about what are the different instruments of fiscal policies. Okay, now fiscal sector reforms. Yes, of course, fiscal policy or the fiscal sector which comprising the different important factor which can lead the economic system of a country. And what are the different objectives of fiscal policy? Yes, to maintain the stability in the economic system or just to try to achieve the growth status of economic system. So these are all the different important objectives which determine the fiscal sector of our country. Yes, there has to be necessary to take important measures to improve the fiscal sector of our country. The government of India has taken several measures to improve the fiscal sector reforms. But that real reforms, it started from 1991. And one more important point we should note it here. Yes, it focused on raising the revenues through the taxation and just try to improve the quality of public expenditures. Yes, by this main objective, it has just introduced by the government and there are three important reforms has taken by the government. Yes, the first reforms aims at increase the growth rate of economy, increase the growth rate of economy by increasing the public investments, public expenditures. And also it has tried to improve the economic system by generating or by promoting the employment opportunities. And also it has tried to reducing the inequality by progressive taxation on income and wealth. So what is the progressive taxation? If increasing the income and increasing the wealth, that rate of tax also just increase. By introducing the progressive taxation, so it helps to reduce the inequalities. This was the main intention of the first reforms, first fiscal sector reforms. And second one, that fiscal reforms in 1970s. And these reforms consciously focusing on achieving the equity and social justice. Social welfare and justice. Social welfare and social justice. And yes, the reforms in 1990s. So these reforms considered as a real reforms in fiscal sectors. So these reforms introduced in 1991 with the new economic policy conditions. Yes, just it has tried to reduce the role of RBI in financial sectors. And it tried to reduce the CRR and SLR, statutory CRR and SLR, reduce the rate of CRR, cash reserve ratio, and statutory liquidity ratios, and just try to reduce the role of RBI in financial sectors. And also it has tried to promote the private sector participation in financial sectors and just remove all barriers to entry of private sectors in many areas. And also it has introduced that is liberal licensing policy for foreign banks also. Yes, so these are all the different reforms introduced in 1990 with the new economic policy, or we can consider stabilization and structural adjustment programs. Okay, so this is all about that fiscal reforms in India. And another one topic which belongs to this chapter, so that is about central and state relationship of our country. Yes, the root of India's the present day federal system are founded in Government of India Act 1919 and 1935. Yes, the Government of India Act 1919, just it focusing on a few important points. So one is relaxed the central control over the provinces. Just it relaxed the central control over the provinces. And the first time the subject has classified or divided into two. So one is state government and another one is central government, according to that Government of India Act 1919. And according to that Nehru report, the Nehru report in 1928, the Constitution of India should be federal. So these are all the important content which we can analyze under the Government of India Act in 1919 and that the Nehru Report Act in 1928. Yes, what are the constitutional scheme of central state relations? Yes, that there are three important schemes. Yes, first one legislative relationship, and second one administrative relationship, and third one financial relationship. Let us discuss one by one. First one, legislative relationship. Legislative relationship, Article 245 to 255 in part 11th, it tells about the different aspects of legislative relationship between center and state. Yes, there are four important aspects coming under this relationship. So first one, territorial extent of central and state legislation, and second one, distributions of legislative subject, and the third one, parliamentary legislation in state field, and the last one, that is center's control over the state legislation. Yes, the first one, the territorial extent of central and state legislation, which means the parliament make laws and all other bodies which have to follow that laws. And second one, that distributions of legislative subjects, yes, which belongs to the central government. The parliament will make laws, and then state government, it has a separate right to make laws by itself, and it make laws in the state list. And the next one, that parliamentary legislation in the state field, during the national emergency, when state make request to implementations of international agreements, in this time, so it will apply, the legislation in the state field will apply. And the last one, the center's control over the state legislation. Yes, here the president of India will enjoy that absolute veto power. Okay, so these are all the coming under the legislative relationship. And the next one, that administrative relationship, which tells about that method of administration. Yes, Article 256 to 263, Part 11, it deals with the administrative relationship between center and state. It comprises different functions. First one, distributions of executive power. Okay, and second one, obligation of state and center. Yes, it is not possible to manage any obligations, any problems by itself to the states. The center can participate in this situation. And next one, can direct the state. That center can direct the state about any financial matter, about any administrative matter, and any legislative matters. So whatever it is, that center can direct the state. Then mutual delegations of functions. Mutual delegations of functions. Next, cooperation and coordination. Which means just to build a good relationship between center and states. And the next one, all India services. Yes, for providing the training to all the different officers like IAS officers, IFS officers. So these are all the different trainings which are given by the central government. And the next one, Public Service Commission. Public service commissions, and just try to manage the relationship during the emergency period. So these are all the different functions coming under the administrative relationship. Okay, yes, there are two important relationship. So one is legislative and another one is belongs to administrative, and another one that is belongs to that financial relationship. And of course the financial relationship which particularly belongs to financial matters of central and state governments. And let us discuss about that another important factor, that is Financial Commission of India, which tells about the financial relationship of our country with the states. Yes, the first financial commission was set up in 1951, okay, and all the guidance which are given by RBI to evaluate the monetary policy and also fiscal policy and help the state to evaluate the financial and physical positions to our country. And yes, Currently, the Finance Commission is headed by N.K. Singh in 2017, which is 14th Finance Commission. Yes, Article 280 and 281 tells about the Financial Commission matters, and Article 281 of Indian Constitution, which tells about the recommendations of Finance Commission of India. Yes, the chairman heads the Finance Commission and he should have had the public affairs experience. And again, 4 members which they are followed by chairman. And what is the qualifications of those 4 members? They should have been qualified as High Court judges. Yes, these are all about what are the compositions of Finance Commission and what are the different functions of Finance Commission. Yes, the first one, distributions of tax revenues. Distributions of tax revenues in a proper way, and try to consolidate the funds of state with a proper utilizations of resources which belongs to the different panchayat and town municipals. And the next one, at governing the grants in aids to the state. Grants in aids to the states. So it has performed a lot of functions regarding financial matters of our country. Yes, the Financial Commission which take initiative responsibilities to manage the financial system of our country. Yes, so these are all the different important facts which belongs to that Financial Commission of India. Yes, dear students, I am coming to the conclusion of this chapter. Yes, we have discussed what is fiscal policy and what are the different objectives of fiscal policy and what are the different measures taken by the government to reform the fiscal sectors. Of course, that RBI played a very important role to control, to manage the fiscal sectors of our country. And yes, what is the reforms? Reduce the RBI role in the financial matters and providing the freedom to private sector participation to raise the funds. And also we have discussed what is the relationship between center and states. I hope you have understand the concept and you are able to write the answer for any question which belongs to this chapter. Dear students, this is the time to say thank you for joining me in this session. I hope you have understand the concept. Keep watching, read well. Thank you.